Good morning, everyone. My name is Aniket Kumar, and today in this presentation, I am going to cover the topic small hydropower plants. So, let's start the presentation. Here's the content. You can pause the video and take a look. So, what is the small hydropower plants? Small hydropower plants is the hydroelectric power on a scale which is suitable for the local community and for the industry or to contribute to distribution energies in a regional electricity grid. What do the small hydropower plants provide? They provide electricity for the central grids, isolated grids, and the remote power supplies to the various villages across the world. And then it is also very reliable. Other than the large hydropower plants, very low operating cost is there. Then the reduced exposure to the energy price volatility is also there during during the small hydropower plants. Then here is a small description about the small hydropower plants. For you can see that here is an intake. Here is an intake from where the water goes to canal, then canal to forebay, then forebay to penstock. And penstock gives the water to the powerhouse where the generators and the turbines has been imposed to create electricity, and then the electricity is being generated and gives the powers to the various houses across the world. And then hydropower projects. Small is not universally defined. For me, a small can be a, a ant, and for someone, a small is like a dot of a pen. So the size of the project related not just to the electrical capacity but also to whether the low or a high head. So in India, we divide the plants into small hydros, mini hydro, micro hydro, and pico hydro power plants. So small hydropower plants gives the waters to 1 to 15 megawatt. Mini hydro gives the water to 100 kilowatt to 1 megawatt. Then a micro hydropower plant gives the water to up to few kilowatt up to 100 kilowatt. Then the pico hydropower plants gives the water to the few hundred watts up to 5 kilowatt. Then the types of small hydro projects, it involves the type of grids, type of civil works. The type of grids comes in the central grids, isolated grids. The type of civil works which involves run of river, no water storage, a lower film capacity, reservoir, high film capacity, significant damming required. Then the components which especially the civil work has been covered in this slide, which is typically accounts for 60% of the plant's initial cost. Then the divergence of the dams and the weirs, low dam of the simple constructions of run-off river, concrete, wood, masonry. Then the cost of dam alone can be rendered the project unviable. Then powerhouse, turbines, mechanicals, electrical equipments are been the components which comes under the civil work. Then the turbine, which scale down the versions of large hydro turbines efficient up to 90% of possible. In a run-off river, flow rate is quite variable. Turbine should function well over the range of the flow rate, and the multiple turbines should use impulse, Pelton, turbo, coarse flow. For the high head application, use kinetic energies through the high speed jet of water. And then the components like other electrical equipments like generator for the induction must be tied to the generations used to feed electricity onto the large grid. Synchronous can function into the isolations from the other generations, and the other equipments like speed increasers, valves, and the transformer. And here is the small graph which generally gives the data that the share of electricity from the hydropowers in the top generating countries in 2011. This is the latest data which I get from the earthpolicy.org. So let's go to the another slide. So the small hydropower plant generally cost, what is the cost of small hydropower plants is 75% of the cost of the small hydropower plants are site specific. So the high initial cost, but the civil work can last which is more than 50 years. Very low operating and the maintenance cost, one part-time operation is usually sufficient. High head development tends to be less costly. Typical ranges, so the cost which typically ranges from $1,200 to $6,000. So the small hydropower projects considerations. What are the various considerations while creating a small hydropower plant? Keep costs down with a simple design and a practical, easily constructed civil structure. Existing dam and the civil structures can be used. Development times 2 to 5 years. 4 phase of engineering work. Recognizing surveys, pre-feasibility study, feasible study, system planning, and the project engineering. And then the small hydropower environment concentrations. Small hydro developments can change the fish habitat, site aesthetics, recreational and navigational uses. Impact of environmental assessment depends on the site's type of projects. Run of river at existing dams, relatively minor. Run of river at the undeveloped sites, dam weirs, diversions and constructions. Then what is the central grid small hydropower plant system, where the run of river projects will feed grid when the flow is available. Utility owned or independent power producers with a long term PPA. Isolated grid small hydropower system. Remote communities, remote residents and industries. Higher price paid for the electricity. Run of river projects typically need supplemental capacity. So here's the conclusion. First, the small hydro projects up to 5 kilowatt can provide electricity for central isolated grids for remote power supplies. Initial cost high and the 75% site specific. Estimate capacity, firm capacity, output and the cost based on the flow duration curves and ahead. And the fourth point, which is the most important point, is that can provide significant preliminary feasibility study cost saving. So here's the references which I have been used during in this presentation. You can take a look. So thank you everyone for giving your precious time. You can comment down your questions in the comment section. Thank you very much for your precious time.